Welcome, everyone, and yeah. Fuck. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Third Way Radio. Tonight's topic will be on the U.S. elections and what we think of them. I know there's been a lot of talk about them on the news and everything, and I know they've gotten a lot of comments about that as well, so here's our opinions on that. We also did debate coverage, I believe it was last week, so we'll be expanding on some of the stuff we said there. But yes, first we will introduce the panel today. First off, we have Mr. Bumpkin.
Yeah, I'm back. I went MIA for 2 weeks, but I'm back.
Back.
Ready to give my hot takes.
Back in black. Back in a black trench coat. And next we have Mr. Rex.
Yo. What's up?
Okay. And today joining us is a very special guest, Mr. Culture Thug.
Hey, what's going on?
Yes. So that is our panel today. We'll just start, I guess, with the first question. How do you guys think this election, particularly the election campaign leading up to this election, how do you think that compares to 2016?
Well, it's definitely a lot. Yeah, it's very lackluster, low energy. It's very easily ignorable as well beyond like the constant advertisements. I can almost forget there's even an election coming up. Like 2016 had all that like really, really strong hype. Probably because I guess a lot of it was really new and it's like, oh wow, someone campaigning on what's this? Populism for once and nationalism? Is this real? I guess this time it's like, well, we already know who's going to be fucking versing the Dems, so, and we already know who that person is because they ran on a false advertisement, and the Dems, they picked the worst fucking candidate again, obviously.
Yeah,
but
it's back to red versus blue again. 16 was something special, you know. A lot of people got excited. Now it's back to it's team red, team blue, and it's the same old lackluster.
End stages of democracy, man. End stages of the two-party state, man.
Yeah,
it's just yikes. It's the more you look into both parties, the more you just realize that it's just the same party. I mean, even conservatives, right? The only thing they're conserving is the liberal policies that the liberals put into place in the first place, right? I mean, 20 years ago they were against gays, right? And now they're okay with, now the conservatives are okay with gays, but transgenders are too much. And now what's the next step? They're going to be okay with transgenders? And
I think that's the crux of conservatism, is that the only thing that conservatives ever seem to do is retreat, right?
Yes.
They stood on the whole segregation thing. They lost. They retreated. They stood on the whole the anti-gay policy. They lost. They retreated, and they retreated, and they retreated, and now like they've basically given up on the whole like the tranny thing and the queer thing, right? The gender fluid and all that stuff, the intersectionality. The radical left is just running rampant now because conservatism refuses to actually address any of these things. It doesn't have any actual charismatic counter arguments.
No, it's all liberalism. It's all different forms of liberalism.
Yeah, 100%.
At the end of the day, it's liberalism. Yeah, exactly. You got again with that, you can clearly see that the conservatives are just merely yesterday's like left libs.
They're reaching the same destination, but once again, the conservatives, they drive the speed limit while the progressive go really right to the same destination in the end. Yeah.
What was the Huey Long quote? Well, the only difference between the Republicans and the Democrats are one cuts you from the neck down, the other one cuts you from the ankle up.
Ankles up. Yep. And that's so. It's 16 was kind of. Everyone was enthusiastic about it. It felt like something new. People who had never voted had gotten into it now and started paying attention to politics and thinking we had a populist coming around. And now just all of us are bitter, scorned ex-lovers that are sitting here like, I don't give a fuck. Who? Excuse my language. I don't care who wins. And that's kind of my mentality now. But I'm still seeing the same rhetoric from the red and the blue saying, oh, this is the most important election ever. This is going to change everything. And if Biden gets in, we'll never have America again. If Trump gets in, democracy's done forever.
They said the same thing back in 2000, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always every election is always the most important election of history,
Yeah.
according to these people.
Yes.
How many most important elections are we gonna have, guys?
I don't know. Hopefully not many more. Okay.
But, you know,
Uh,
whatchamacallit, you know, the funny thing is about that when you think about it too, it's like, you know, if democracy is so great and all, how come every single election is always the most detrimental one where democracy could collapse? In quotations. Very consistent there. Very stable system. If like every single election always teeter totters of, oh, are we gonna lose the entire country? That shouldn't even be a thing.
And every candidate always runs off of, I'm gonna fix all the problems.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we always have problems to be fixed every 4 years? Like someone's coming to save the country again.
Yeah.
Well,
saying the same things as last time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe a little rehashed.
On the topic of the candidates running and everything, do you guys think that Biden was a good choice with the field that was presented, and do you think the DNC should have picked Bernie?
They easily should have picked Bernie. He's clearly, while like, you know, not a remotely our kind of sphere kind of populist, he's definitely a progressive populist, and obviously the entire left. I'm going to use a left in the American sense, not actually because they're liberals, but nevertheless. And yeah, no, they all loved him. He was their proper candidate, if you want to like by populist terms. DNC clearly picked Biden because obviously didn't have control over Bernie yet, which surprisingly is the case. I thought Bernie was completely compromised, but I guess technically he isn't if they're still not picking him. Something behind the scenes they're not like agreeing on.
The centrist Democrats, I think, view Bernie's rhetoric as too extreme. I don't think Bernie's a threat to the Democratic Party. I think even if he was an authentic person and he won, he wouldn't get much done because he wouldn't have the House and Senate supporting him. So he'd be kind of a lame duck president, just good for rhetoric. But he did seem to have the energy behind him. He did seem to be with Hillary in 2016. They definitely screwed him over. Then you watch them do it this year. You watch people like Elizabeth Warren and how they calculated for her to stick around long enough to split the vote on the more, I guess, socialist-based voting block of the Democrat to give Biden the win in the end over Bernie. So, but Bernie, every time they do this to him, he goes and panders for them, right? He never speaks out against it. So I can't think he's authentic. I don't think he's an authentic socialist or authentic
by no
political
means.
radical.
He's definitely a champagne socialist.
Yeah.
But I think all he really needs is like stop the pacifism, because the crowd is there. If he is just like, no, I'm not tolerating this. His base
I think he would
would
have won 16. I think he would have won 16, and he could have won this election. I really do think that.
Everybody, if he would have said, no, I'm not standing down, fuck that. I'm not going to let you do me dirty like this. Everybody would completely just, I don't know, do some kind of filibuster. If they just do like some kind of sit out, like, I'm not going to vote this term then. All right, let the Republicans win. Then, oh my goodness, dude.
Not because they agree with them in any sense, just to smite the Democrats.
Yeah, insane. Just to smite, and that's probably you don't see as much of that anymore this time around than you did last time. I think a lot of people who were enthusiastic about Bernie too, kind of, were. He'll take one for the company, right? He's a company guy in the end. Like he goes out there and shields for Clinton. He goes out there and shields for Biden now. That probably why you didn't see a lot of Bernie bros now saying they're going to switch over and support Trump now just to spite the Democrats. But I do think Biden is a strong candidate in the sense of it is that centrist base of the Democrats and the black vote as well. Bernie always had a problem for whatever reason with the black vote. And Biden had the black churchgoers in the city, right? That's the connection there of the big voting bloc out of the black community that the Democrats hold on to are ironically enough, the churchgoers, black community that are in rural areas and in cities. And Bernie had a problem attracting them. So I think they saw with Biden, Wall Street's happy, the centrists are happy, and the extremists liberals are going to have to vote for him because they hate Trump anyways. So they're going to vote for any Democrat you throw up there. I think by strategy, they're looking at it as, this keeps the system in place that they like it. Whether they win or lose, right? It's going to be the same system. Bernie I think they feared he would have scared away the centrists, but I do think he would have picked up all the blue votes from every blue state, and he could have challenged Trump in the Rust Belt. I think that's the difference between Bernie and Biden that they downplay or they don't understand is Bernie can win the Rust Belt back. Biden can't.
Yeah, but I mean, if they really, I don't even think they want to win. If they really wanted to win, the only way to beat a populist is throw another populist at them.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
really the only way.
That's the weird thing too. Like, is it some kind of like different chess game around where they're quite literally just setting up a candidate to lose against Trump? Is that their intentions of that?
It looks like
I
it.
don't know.
Which goes back to it doesn't matter who wins.
You can't. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's also the whole thing as well. Not to dabble in conspiracy, but it does seem to have some intriguing merits in regards to he's merely just put there sitting at Kamala Harris.
I think actually we do have
a
we have a question about that later. I think that is probably what they're going to end up doing.
Yeah.
But yes, on that we can move along there to the next question, which is there anything you guys would like to see out of the candidate that wins? Is there any policy that you want to see like Trump or Biden pass, or anything that you'd like to see them implement? I guess we'll start with Trump because he's probably the least popular.
There's a lot, of course, but he won't do any of it. The
Yeah.
antitrust.
Okay.
thing,
Within his reasons, what would you like to see the candidate pass?
The antitrust lawsuit against big tech. That is something I'd love to see follow through. Although, they can do things like attack with the Section 230, they call it, and then make them responsible as they make newspapers responsible. So for slander and libel, they're open to get sued now instead of being immune to that. But that really doesn't change it. It needs to become a utility, I would argue. And this is what the best way to deal with big tech. This is how China essentially deals with Google, right? Google has to respect what China allows. They don't do that here, right? Google could not censor any government people in China at all. China would come down on that because they have oversight of their internet. I think that would be important for us, but I don't see. So that's one thing on paper he's trying to do. Another thing is with the tariffs with China and the so-called trade war and everything else. I do like that aspect of Trump. I do like he is looking at it from a business perspective from there, and he is right that we've sent a lot of our businesses over there. So even if he's not really bringing a lot of it back, the rhetoric is still good because it makes people aware there is a strong competitor out there, and we should be focused on that competitor and maybe not so focused on what bathrooms transvestites should use, right?
Yeah.
And things like that. So those would be two things out of Trump that I would like to see him continue on is the antitrust suit against big tech, to really follow through on that. Of course, you would love him to prosecute all the supposed deep state people that they always talk about. But once again, nothing ever comes from that. All these, it seems like only the conservatives are the ones that end up getting in real trouble for these things, and there's been no repercussions on the other side for the illegal spying on Trump and the plotting against him and the pushing forward of what they knew was Democratic propaganda with the whole Russia hoax and everything. So if he would follow through on that, if he would follow through on the antitrust and follows through still staying strong and still having some kind of tariff wars or trade battle with China to put America in a stronger position, those would be good things out of Trump.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rex Bumpkin, do you have anything to add to that?
Basically the same sentiment.
Okay.
It's the rhetoric that counts and puts the idea out there, even if he's not going to do it. I mean, it doesn't mean that like the populace won't know about it. At least people, when we start thinking about that idea, maybe who knows, one day someone can get in that position and actually be for it.
Is
who's
Biden
not bought out.
pro-Palestine?
I don't know. Well, actually, speaking of which, what would you guys, what policies would you like to see out of Biden?
I don't know any of his policies, man.
I don't know much of them. Like, I somewhat loosely agree with his healthcare plan, but even then, it's still privatized. He still wants to continue what Obama did, but further it, where having 2 different healthcare sectors. Just nationalize it, man. Take Bernie's
Oh.
approach, socialize it. I absolutely agree with that. Trump was trying to call him out on it, and Biden was right. He was right in regards to that. He's not Bernie. He fought the Dems on that, which again, it's kind of funny. He's arguing that talking point, considering whatchamacallit, like this entire base, they're not for privatized healthcare. So it's very funny he's doing that. But yeah,
Yes,
I don't know.
it's quite funny how much of a centrist Biden actually is. It's
Yeah,
quite-
at best center right, but yeah.
Yeah,
Quite-
center right is
He's
probably
just
what
like a
he said.
Hillary Clinton. He would be
Yeah.
like that. So when you look at his policies, like for Trump, we could see the 4 years what he did, and we can kind of call upon that. With Biden, it has been over 40 years, right? And he's a deep state player. He's been a part of the system for a long time. So anything he's pushing through is not going to be. It might sound good on surface, like Obamacare sounded good on its surface, but then when you saw what Obamacare was, it was nothing of what was promised. And I think we could always expect that with a Biden. So I couldn't see any policy he would put forward that wouldn't have some kind of backdoor attached to it,
That's
where
every
you
policy.
get like, you get ill-intended consequences because of that. So yeah, Biden is. That's what we were trying to avoid when Trump in 2016. We thought, oh, finally, someone who's not a politician. He's going to be authentic. And then we learned, okay, yeah, he was just like every other politician. So yeah, I can't even see anything Biden could do that would matter or I'd be interested in, because I don't think he's not even concerned with the trade war, right? He's in bed with China. So it'd be back to business as usual. Businesses back to China, good tariff deals for China to import back into America.
So, on Biden's policies, it is likely, being that he is, how old is Biden? Like 78? Like,
Is he 78?
he's old as fuck. Being that he is quite old, it is likely that if Biden wins, he won't sit for his full term. He won't be sitting for his full term. So that leaves the door open for Harris to get into office. What do you guys think is the likelihood of a Kamala Harris presidency, and what do you guys think of that?
I think it's a very high probability that that Biden will be, what's the term put out for unfit? I think that's the term.
Unfit for office. Yeah. Impeached. Yeah.
Unfit. Yeah, I feel like that it's very plausible. I mean, again,
I think he might just step down. I think he might just be internally pressured and step down.
That too. That could happen.
Give it like a year.
I'm not all here. I want my vice president to make it in, and then there you go. It's very easy, and that's what it kind of seems that they're alluding to. Again, not to peddle conspiracy theory, but I think it's very plausible.
Yeah, and Kamala Harris is just a better functioning kind of neo-Democrat or a Hillary Clinton figure than Biden. So she'll run the same thing that Biden would end up doing, but she would be better functioning at it, more aggressive. I could see.
And they want their female president.
And then they would have their female president as well.
Yes.
So they'll get to check that off the list, which
And
is always interesting. You see the whole like narrative and propaganda for the females running is, females are telling other females, oh, you have to vote. We need a female president. And like most work situations I know where there's a female boss and there's constant catfighting with the female employees as well. Everything goes down to usually they blame their boss for being the biggest bitch or hating them. And there's been books written on this too about how, female bosses, like females in workplaces can be really catty and cutthroat towards each other. So I like that I find it ironic there's this narrative that as a female, you must support the female, when I've seen numerous instances not only in my own personal life, but outside of that as well, as where female bosses and female employees often had conflict with each other. And it wasn't this, very society of, feminine rule.
Right.
Does anyone have anything to add to that?
No, I agree. You've kind of seen that as well with the black community of Obama. It doesn't really matter too much on like what his policies was. It's like, hey, we're getting one of our own guys in there.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay then. How do you guys think that coronavirus has impacted or will impact the results of the election? And do you think mail-in voting and Trump's coronavirus response will hurt him at all?
Well, the impact of Corona definitely is going to impact the election. Before all the riots happened, I thought it was going to be a 50-50 race then. I was like, even giving Biden the edge. But then after the rioting came, like it went right back into Trump's favor. I thought mail-in voting is always sketchy. The worst part is just in my city in Las Vegas, they had found a whole pile of the ballots just thrown onto the ground. So that's happening all over. I'm seeing from stories. So it's not going to be that accurate, and it's delayed. You have to wait on it. So of course, there's all the problems with that. So you want to vote in person if you're going to vote. I would say if you're going to rely on the postal service, good luck to you. But as far as Trump handling the virus, I thought he doesn't have the ability to empathize or get empathy across to the people. And there was one time early into the coronavirus where he was bragging about the ratings to the press conferences. And it's things like that, you just face palm and go, of course people are watching because they want to know what's going on with this disease, with this virus. And him not being able to relate that and still worried about like ratings and things like that. He just couldn't connect with people. He's just such a narcissist that he can't disconnect from that. So I think that's what gave Biden an advantage in that. But I agreed with his move on stopping flights from China and then from Europe after that. And I think they took good measures. I don't think a different president, a Biden in there or Hillary Clinton in there, could have did much different than what Trump did as far as policy and what he actually did. But I think the numbers would pretty much be the same still. But just how Trump comes across, it comes across like he's just obsessed with himself. And at moments, which is fine for people accepted that, but moments where you have a virus going around, and when it first came out, people were nervous and scared about it because they didn't understand what it was, how fast it could spread, who would be affected. We were hearing all kinds of crazy stuff about blood clots popping up and just weird things. And to have him like bragging about ratings and all this stuff, it's just he really did drop the ball on there, which gave Biden a shot, which gave him a shot that the rioters, once again, which makes you wonder, are they just trying to give it to Trump because they let all this rioting go on and the media, overhyped it, that it put it back in his corner. But yeah, I thought the coronavirus hurt him because of that, because he couldn't connect with people and he came across, just as an insufferable buffoon that was only concerned with ratings and the attention he was getting. Well, give him exactly what he was supposed to get. I mean, that's the person he was. He was not only a career politician, but always a runner-up, right? If you're not talking about, when it comes to presidential hopes and everything like that. So he was someone no one really thought of. When you looked at the field, I remember when the field first came out, the Democrats, and they're talking about how diverse it was and how you got all this young blood in there and all of this. And still, who comes out at the end of it? It's old reliable Joe, right? Old 40 years in the government Joe, who's just essentially a puppet for the same ruling system that runs Congress and the Senate, right? Doesn't matter who the president is. Same kind of system exists in Congress and the Senate. Kind of like a Mike Pence. That's what Mike Pence feels like on the Republican side. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's.
Don't talk bad about Mike Pence.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. He's status quo like everyone else.
Well, anyone else on that? What do you guys think about Bumpkin? How Trump handled Corona and Biden?
Yeah, I don't know. Biden, I don't really see how anybody could just find like the way he's debating is like how to articulate it. Anything serious to listen to? I don't know. It's very unenthusiastic. He doesn't really listen either when it comes to debating either. That's one thing that kind of annoyed me during the first debate. You wouldn't even give him like eye contact. I know most probably don't care about those things, because it's just like, their policy or some shit like that. The only people I see remotely support him is like these old like white ladies on Twitter. That's about it. Yeah, I can agree. It could be. I think it's gonna be a really close one. Some people think it's a landslide. I don't think it's fully.
I think it's gonna be a landslide. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a landslide. I think it's gonna be just like 16. Yeah, maybe even more. Yeah, I can't see the states when you look at so. I can't see what states would turn from red to blue right now that Trump won. And I mean, as far as the regular states that vote Republican, I don't think any of them are going to switch over this election cycle on Trump. So when we look at the Rust Belt, when we look at the parts Trump won in 16, I'm looking at that too. I'm looking at Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Florida. And I think he can take all those again. Pennsylvania, I think all of that's there for him still. I can't see him losing it, especially once again with the rioting. I think that's really going. I think it is once again a silent majority is going to show up. Yeah, I can't. Even Nevada, which is a blue state, is I think going to be more up for. I'm looking at the stats from last election, and Hillary won that 47% to 45%. So that was even close in 16. I think it's going to be closer now, even with Nevada. So I think that might even be in play. And then you look at places like Colorado. I mean, who knows? That could, or Minnesota. He lost Minnesota as well, very close there as well. He could definitely, with especially with the rioting going on and the lawlessness we're seeing in places like Wisconsin and Minnesota, that he could turn Minnesota red as well. So there's, like I said, I think his way is going to be much easier, and he has enthusiastic support once again, right, as always. And at the same time, in Biden being lackluster and people settling for him or doing it as a protest vote, I don't think it's going to be enough for a lot of the people that publicly won't say they like Trump. And I know a few of these in my own life that didn't like Trump, didn't vote for him in 16, but are not only voting for him now, but trying to guilt me into vote for him again, right? So I'm seeing that come around. I think there's going to be a lot more of those people that won't admit to liking Trump, but see kind of the chaos that's coming with the Democrats and don't want to be a part of that and want to try to prevent that as much as they can. So that's what I'm banking off of, is he's going to be able to pull that in once again. Like the people that wouldn't admit to voting for Trump, but will show up and pull the lever for him.
Yeah, that's generally the same thing as Doug. I do think, the riots definitely are going to play a factor into it.
Kanye West.
Kanye, sure. And I hear rumors of Tucker as well.
Who?
Tucker.
No, I don't see. I think Don Jr. would run before Tucker.
The people are trying to push him to get into it, so he might.
I don't think he's going to have enough support, from the Republicans themselves, and B, like from the general public of America. I think a Don Jr. would have more. I could see even Republicans getting behind him because he'll be a little more squeaky, clean, political version of his daddy. But Kanye West for sure. I don't think he'll run as a Democrat. But he says he's running and he's on a mission from God to run. So I do believe he's going to be doing that. And then, yeah, Don Jr. might. I mean, it's as funny as it sounds. It's you could see that kind of stuff. Because I don't think the typical Republican, the rhino Republican, has a chance anymore in any kind of electoral process. Ron Paul. I think Ron Paul is done with politics.
Yeah.
Rand Paul. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say Ron Paul. He's pretty old now.
Yeah, he almost just died like a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they screwed him too. They did like what they did with Bernie with him. Yeah. Gabbard won't get far again. Well, the Democrats will probably run a woman for sure.
I would love to go see hope he gets somewhere.
For Republicans, yeah. Oh, that would be their dream. That would be their Jeb Bush of 2024, right? They would want the Nikki Haley. All the money and everything would be behind her. But let's see who gets involved. I mean, it's so far away. It's going to be interesting to see what 4 more years of Trump brings us, which I think will be as much as the same as the last 4 years. And then to see what that brings to the field in 2024. Because as of now, the only things for sure is we know Kanye West said he's running in 2024. We know Don Jr. has hinted at it numerous times. And so we know those possibilities. Would Jr. do it as a Republican? Would they do it as an independent? We don't know how they're going to approach it yet. But those are, as far as the Democrats, yeah, I mean, you could end up having, like AOC trying to run in 2024, right? Who knows how far left they're going to go in the next 4 years, especially with a Trump still as a president for the next 4 years.
Oh shit, my thing was off. Okay. We might have to edit that out. Holy shit. My microphone was off on OBS. Lol. I think what you'll see on the what was I gonna say now? I forgot what I was gonna say.
On the Trump, we're gonna see.
Oh yeah. Sorry. I think if Trump wins, what we'll start to see is I think we'll see the Democrats starting to march right. I think they'll kind of give up on the far left shtick and they'll start to move right.
You could have that, yeah. They could start moving back to the center and realizing, or they can keep doubling down. I mean, that's why it's going to be interesting to see how they react to that, because under Trump, they got more radical than they've ever been, right? So that could just keep enticing them to do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I think because Biden is pretty like he's center right, like he's pretty conservative for a Democrat, and if he ends up losing again, right, and Trump continues to win, I think the Democrats will take that as like the Democratic core, the establishment will take that as like, okay, then I guess we need to move further right because the voting base is moving right. I think they'll give up on trying to pander to the left and to the youths.
Yeah, it could be. That could definitely be a possibility. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to see, though, right? It's going to have to play out. We're going to have to see who's around. But it's going to be interesting because that is going to be direction. This is assuming Trump wins. Because if Biden wins, then it's all about.
Yeah, if Biden wins,
I think
then
it's more favorable for people like us. To be honest.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. If Biden wins, then immediately the Democratic Party goes like way to the fucking like, was it the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA? The DSA will immediately take over the party. Yeah.
Well, they're definitely getting a lot more of them pop up, or they could kind of nullify them, right, and go back to business as usual Democrats, right? Same old thing, starting wars and all of this. So it's taking out leaders of countries and things like that. So I mean, it's going to be interesting because there is a contingent amongst the Democrats that is quote unquote radical. I mean, most of it is just it's very feminine, and it's I don't know, it's funny how it's called radical when it's not really radical people, but it's it is a presence there, and the old established Democrats do fear that, right? I don't think they have energy to fight these younger people coming in with the more socialist and leftist ideas. So you could see a battle amongst the Democrats for that, amongst themselves with a Biden win as well, as far as Congress and Senate disputes. So it would be interesting, but for sure it would open the door much more for, on the other side, the right, to start accepting more third positionist kind of points of view.
So yes, to our final question of the night. I think you guys will like this one. How is this? In what way is this election showing that we need a third option in this country?
Oh, because the polarization is getting much and much higher, and we need to have a unifier. I think the more polarized it gets, the more if someone actually like a true third option of, hey, I don't want exclusively my side, and I don't exclusively want this side either. I want a merger of both sides, what works from both. I want to unite my populace, get a little bit of everything for everybody, that everybody can agree on. I think if you get enough populism behind that, you get a proper enough outspoken position, I think you can get a really big rallying behind you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's once again, like you're saying, the polarization of the country, the divide and conquer mentality of current politics, definitely opens the ground for a populist mentality, which is what third position would bring to this country. So I think that's very strong in our favor. Also, I think we're seeing the continued failure of both Republicans and Democrats. Like, I don't know if we were talking before we went on or if we're talking during the podcast. We're talking about every 4 years, people are coming to save the country from the last horrible person that was elected, right?
Yeah, that was on the podcast. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So same kind of mentality there of what's wrong with both Republicans and Democrats. If no matter who you elect, no matter if you have a Republican president, Republican House, and Republican Senate, or Democrat president, Democrat House, and Democrat Senate, no matter if you have all of that, you still get nothing done, and you still have next 4 years later someone saying, we need to fix all the ills of the last administration. I'm the guy to do that. So it ends that. They've proven, as far as I'm concerned, they suck at leading and ruling and directing and guiding and helping. They suck. Both Republicans and Democrats, they suck as a party. They suck as an idea. And so I think more Americans are starting to see that. And then this is where third position, it opens the door for us because they want to hear something new. They want something that works. They're sick of turning on their television and, seeing America split, hating each other, and just overwhelmed in all kind of different identity politics shoved down everyone's throat. And they just want to be American again. They want to be a part of a functioning, thriving society and community. Third position brings that because that's exactly what third position is stemmed from, that mentality to create that. Republicans and Democrats are not. They're panderers. Democracy is all about pandering to people. And I think people had their fill of it. I got to believe people have had their fill of it. They just haven't had the option to hear a different kind of mentality. And once again, my fear is always someone's going to beat us to that punch who's not as genuine as people like us. And they're going to take it because people are desperate for something new.
We've seen a little bit with Tulsi this time around, but they really cheated her out, so her voice can get too far. But from what I've seen, because I followed her a lot during her campaign, she had a lot of Trump and Bernie and some other supporters as well. Like, people were like, I'm tired of this unity, and we do need someone who is more properly for the people and not partisan. Which obviously most of her stuff was still somewhat partisan, like arguably so. Though there's obviously some good things she ran on.
Well, Andrew Yang too. He tried to play that, but they forced him to go more left as well. They forced Gabby to do a lot of that as well. It's pandering, so you're kind of
shame.
Yeah, it is.
But ultimately, it's better for us because then we still have a chance at that.
Yes,
like you mentioned.
Yes.
Well, that's why I'm afraid of people even like Kanye West. It might sound silly, but yeah, you have people so desperate for stuff, and if they're willing to elect Trump, I mean, how far are we willing to go with this stuff? So it's not out of the norm that people, and then they simply talk about, we need authentic people. We need to get together. We need, more compassion and more. It's like things third position would put into reality, but would get usurped by other people that either really don't know what they believe when they get talked out of their beliefs by their advisors, which, one could argue maybe that even happened with Trump, right? But it's like there's that potential, or there's that potential just, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, someone who's corrupt but sees populism is growing, so they usurp the movement by, doing a kind of more, let's say, kosher version of populism. So it's like there's that threat there. That's what really scares me. It's like the opportunity is there. I'll go, to my grave, if that be tomorrow, convinced 100% the opportunity is there to seize in this day and age. But it's just who's there to seize it, and I'm afraid the same bad guys see that and they're going to seize it.
Mm-hmm. Well, those have been some very insightful takes on this episode of Third Way Radio. I think that's everything. So thank you, thank you everyone for watching. This has been another episode of Third Way Radio. Tune in next week on Thursday for another episode of the Ronan Report, episode 2, I believe it is.
First episode, I would say, right? That's our first officially.
No,
the other one was Debate Watch video. Right?
No, this is going to be released on the 3rd. Oh, sorry, the 1st.
Hi.
this is going to be released on the 1st. So yeah, if you're watching this live, you're watching this on the 1st. We're recording it on the 25th. So hello from the past.
Oh, Bumpkin's back.
Yeah, Bumpkin, you
I'm
finally
sorry
came the
about that.
fuck back.
I'm-
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry about that. Like I said, there's a party going on at my place, and a lot of family that I haven't seen in a while showed up, and we had to
Okay.
fix something at the house. It's
Okay,
you know how it
well,
is.
we're just as we're closing up. So do you have anything to say to the people?
Yeah. For sure. You can follow me at of Kekistan on Twitter. Yeah, get my follow count up. That'd be great. Also, when it comes to the Republicans or Democrats, it's the same party, different sides of the same coin. They act like they're different, but it's just literally to take your money and use it in ridiculous manners, like foreign wars. Like put into perspective, we've been in Iraq for as long as I've been alive, pretty much. I'm 21 years old.
Interesting takes.
Just-
Okay.
just-
There's
It is crazy when you think about
it
it.
is
It's still
really
there.
crazy.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. But it's not even the longest war the US has been in. But okay, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Anyway, this has been another episode of Third Wave Radio. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Tune in next week. Tune in next week, same time for another episode. Tune in this Thursday for episode 2 of the Roan Report. And yeah. Godspeed, everyone.